We are talking about leading in a virtual environment, and Mike Evans pointed out three big areas of focus, and that's purpose, community, and structure. And in this segment, we're going to start with purpose and a slightly deeper dive with two of the experts from the Chorus Advisory team. First, we have Sean Bennett, Senior Director of Leadership Development. Sean, welcome.
Hello, David.
And also joining us is Mike Jones, who's the VP of Strategic Services at Chorus. Mike, thanks for being here.
Good morning, David.
All right, I want to jump right into this little deeper dive. And first of all, Sean, let's go to you. Why are we starting this conversation about leading in a virtual environment by talking about purpose? Why is that so important during these times?
Yeah, let me first back up, David, and say that it's not just a virtual environment, it's a crisis facilitated virtual environment. So there's more going on than just working in a place not under the same roof. I think I'll start by telling a story of a leader who I talked to earlier this week who said, quote, "I feel like our team is falling apart. We are in survival mode and I am starting to feel personally hopeless and I sense that our team is as well." And I think in some ways that quote kind of sums up what we're all feeling as we deal with the ambiguity of our societal situation and then try to lead in the context of it, and we're not oftentimes working in the same space and under the same roof. And David, I think that what happens is if leaders do not focus more intentionally and with more frequency on purpose, we don't help our teams actually thrive and survive. Our teams just start to operate in this place of let's just get the work done and survive.
Great. So focusing on purpose is so important, and you get the whole company rallied around that. What does that give you?
Well, it creates a deeper commitment to the work. It creates a deeper commitment to one another on the team, which is where people flourish and thrive. I think it might be helpful for me to tell a story of a janitor at NASA to help bring this to life. In the 1960s, John F. Kennedy challenged America to put a man on the moon, so NASA began that work. And later in the 1960s, some researchers went to NASA and they wanted to interview people, and they made a list, including a janitor. And they approached this janitor and they said, "We would like to interview you." And he declined because he says, "I have to mop the floor and I don't have time." But they did press him and he eventually agreed, but he did the interview while he was mopping the floor. And as they looked down at their piece of paper, their first question was, "So what do you do here?" And in that moment, he responded, "I'm putting a man on the moon." And it's really a great example of a purpose-driven employee, team member, or leader who sees their work beyond the task, beyond the job, and sees it as connected to a bigger narrative that is in service of really our country, the world, humankind, and that is purpose at its really best.
I'm sure every leader would love to talk to one of the janitors in their company and hear something like that come out. So let's talk about how to achieve that in a little more practical sense. Mike, I want you to weigh in on this. How does a leader achieve what Sean's talking about?
Yeah, David, I think as leaders, we all know when we're at our best, we're in touch with purpose. But as Sean mentioned, these times are really hard for all of us to be there. So I think that the place to start is to get back in touch with our own purpose. So I just encourage leaders, and I'm trying myself, to really spend some time to stay in touch and to get in touch with my purpose in this time. And I encourage all leaders, start there, start with you. And then of course your organization. What are you here for? What are you trying to achieve? Who are you trying to serve? And then of course, when you're in touch, it's not enough to be in touch personally and even with your organization's purpose, then weave that into the communications and interactions you have with your team, even more than normal. Again, at our best, we're all doing that, but how can we in this moment really up that game to a whole nother level, where we are in all of our one-on-ones, in all of our team discussions, in the Zoom calls and the phone calls, when we're talking about tasks, to talk about what we need to get done, but why. I really think this is going to be key, especially in this moment where everybody's facing new problems and new challenges. We need creative energy of our team to be focused on where we're going so that they can really creatively overcome the obstacles they're facing today, which are different and more than the ones they were just in the past. And then the final thought that I'd share is just to really keep focused on others and otherness in this moment. It's just a time when, as Sean mentioned, we're all kind of survival mode. We're all pretty head down. And to the extent that we can help everybody raise their head, raise their eyes, and look out and look at others, I think it's going to help them, help us. Everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah, I love that. It's the we're all in this together feeling. You like to achieve. And Sean, it looks like you'd like to weigh in on that.
Well, I was just thinking about how I oftentimes press leaders into developing a mantra. And mantras, I think, are a really important, short and pithy way to keep this spirit of purpose alive. And it's kind of like when you walk into a high school locker room, right? There's oftentimes a message written on the wall or painted on the wall, and that's a message from the coach to the team that articulates in a pithy, short way, here's what we believe and here's what bands us together, right? And I would encourage all leaders to have their mantra that they would write on their locker room wall, share it often, so that everybody on their team is also sharing it with the coach. Because it's not just the coach's or the leader's responsibility, it's the entire team's responsibility to cultivate this idea of purpose.
Great. So we're at the end of this segment. So why don't you give us a mantra to lead us out, Sean? What would you say is the mantra for purpose?
In these times, the mantra is people need leadership. People need inspirational leadership. They don't just need tasks to do and deadlines to complete. They need inspiration, David.
More than ever. Thanks so much, Sean. That's a great way to wrap this one up. Mike Jones, thank you so much. We'll see you guys in the next segment on Community. Thank you.